Giant DCEU announcements were made yesterday by James Gunn, a man who is very hopeful that his plans for the next few years will pay off. And with tons of information being announced at once, people were pretty excited to see such set-in-stone plans for the future, but there has been a lot of backlash because of how much he praises the Flash film and Ezra Miller's performance, but also how he snubbed Henry Cavill yet again, saying they never saw a future with him as Superman after he took over. I have a bunch of things to show off, but before we get into the topic at hand, if you enjoy the content that I create, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Follow me on social media like Twitter or mine so that you can see when my content is posted. And of course, if you do really enjoy the videos and the live streams that I create, please consider becoming a Dark Titan via Patreon or a supporter via YouTube memberships. So I have a few Bounding into Comics articles to reference. This one says Backlash continues for James Gunn as he responds to angry fans still sour over Henry Cavill's departure from Superman, and this one that says DC Studios heads James Gunn and Peter Safran open to Ezra returning as the Flash after Solo movie and will make the decision when the time is right. I personally do like a lot of the ideas that they have for the DCEU going forward, but they also are making a lot of missteps in my opinion, and of course a lot of fans' opinions. Keeping Ezra Miller is a very, very negative thing in my opinion. People do not like Ezra. People are not supportive of Ezra anymore, and Ezra has undergone a lot of social media scrutiny. They have said time and time again they are committed to The Flash. They're excited for this movie to come out. I mean, James Gunn even had said that it is one of the greatest superhero films ever made. That was part of his announcement yesterday. But they're canceling and, not hiring people that fans really want, like Henry Cavill, which is just so disappointing. He is such a fantastic actor, and he deserves to be part of the DCEU going forward. Something very odd at DC is happening, where they are getting rid of people like Ben Affleck and Henry Cavill, but they are open to working with people like Ezra, Amber, Jason Momoa again in the future. And even though they do, have a lot of plans like they've announced, a lot of them don't really go together. It's like they want to keep half of the actors that they already have, but they don't want to keep all of them. So it says, despite how any other actor with a comparable history of misconduct accusations, verifiable assaults, and numerous arrests would have been long dropped from any and all projects that were attached to, DC Studios heads James Gunn and Peter Safran are leaving the door open for Ezra to eventually return to the role of the Flash. The two Warner Brothers executives offered their thoughts on Miller and the actor's ongoing personal troubles on January 31st while speaking to The Hollywood Reporter about their plans for DC's cinematic universe. They, of course, said that The Flash is probably one of the greatest superhero movies ever made, and then they talked about Ezra potentially reprising their role as The Flash, saying that there is nothing that prohibits that from happening. But if Ezra was almost any other actor, they would have been canceled already. They would have been fired, and they probably would have already scrapped the Flash film. I understand they've put a lot of time and money into it, and they do want to release it, but I think that we are all expecting them to drop Ezra after that, but it sounds like they have some long-term plans for this individual, which is a very questionable decision. I personally don't see any way that the Flash movie is going to make them money. I feel like they might just break even on it because we know they have shoved a lot of funds into this film. But it just seems very odd that this is the individual that they are banking their future on, at least for the DCEU. And of course, James Gunn has faced major backlash over the past day because of his statements on Henry Cavill's departure as Superman. Now, instead of genuinely responding to people and saying, I completely understand that you guys are upset, I hope that you will give our future a chance, no, he decided to attack people for simply not spelling Henry Cavill's name right. Somebody said you pissed off an entire franchise worth of fans, nobody cares about your cat, and he said it'd be great at the very least if you knew how to spell an actor's name if you were going to be so outraged. This person simply forgot an L at the end of Cavill's last name, and this also really upset people, but James Gunn decided to say during all these statements that they didn't fire Henry Cavill, they simply never cast him, which is so sad because clearly behind the scenes they were telling Cavill, you're back as Superman, even if they didn't have any contracts in place, because when he dropped The Witcher and, of course, Black Adam happened, he made a statement saying that he was back as Superman, so clearly behind the scenes he was being told, you have a future here, we're gonna work with you, we'll figure something out. And we heard that they had like 2 to 3 movies that they wanted him to be part of. But now James Gunn is saying, well, we didn't fire him, so you can't be mad at us for that. But it's like James Gunn doesn't understand the fact that people love Henry Cavill and millions of people want to see him in more of these films. I think that they are making a major mistake with not finding some way to fit him into the future. Even if it's only in one more film, they should have found a way to work with him, and they didn't, and they are going to face backlash for years over that decision. Yes, you didn't technically hire him, but at the same time, he told fans that he was back because he must have believed that he was back. So there's just a lot of controversy surrounding the DCEU and James Gunn's future at this point. I think a lot of the projects sound okay. I like Gal Gadot. I don't mind Jason Momoa. But even their recent movies have controversy. Of course, Wonder Woman 1984 was not what fans wanted, and Aquaman 2 has been smothered in controversy because, of course, Amber. So even those movies that they may do in a couple of years would still have some level of controversy behind them. And they did announce a lot of new things, like they're doing new Batman movies, they're doing some Supergirl movie. They talked about how their Vision for Green Lantern series is in the vein of True Detective, and like that sounds neat, that sounds interesting, but at the same time they are trying to introduce a lot of new characters, getting their own shows and films, while also throwing away the chances that they have to use these beloved actors and their amazing stories simply because maybe they just don't want to work with the actors, and maybe they think that Henry Cavill is too overpriced and he's not worth what, they could actually get out of him in a film. But either way, fans are not going to forget about this. And on the tweet where he said they didn't technically fire Henry Cavill because he was never cast, people are, giving DC and James Gunn a piece of their minds. Damn, James Gunn really hates Henry Cavill. He could have just simply said nothing and could have said, you know what? Cavill simply didn't fit into our future right now, but we are definitely considering working with him again in the future. They could have said something to please fans, but they haven't done that. The gymnastics this guy does to not stand by his own decisions. Henry was announced back as Superman, then he showed up and made a decision. Own it. Stop, James, I'm still recovering, but Ezra is in the Flash still. Make it make sense, James. It seems like they have some ideas and direction that they're going with right now, whether we like it or not, but I just don't think that it's going to go as good for them as they are expecting, because of course millions of Henry Cavill fans are not going to support these films. They're going to be roasting James Gunn for the next few years. Maybe they'll decide to bring him back at some point, but they are keeping controversial actors like Amber and Ezra and firing good ones or not casting good ones like Cavill. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed it and found it important and informative, please make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you didn't, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.